Welcome, everyone. I'd like to introduce you to Michael Dan, who is the Managing Director of Sitruna. Mike, would you like to say hello to everyone and also, I suppose, give a quick summary of what it is that Sitruna do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me on, Joe. To be fair, I did it one or two webinars back at Amazon, but it's been a very, very long time. So great to do one again. Honoured to be invited to the e-commerce accountants webinar series. I work at Sitruna. Background for me is that I was at Amazon for about 4.5 years. Met our founder Stephen, and he left Amazon and founded Sitruna as long as running his book company Beachmore Books, and then came across to join, and doing some really exciting things. In summary, we're a full service Amazon agency, so we help sellers both launch and scale on the platform. So international expansion, we've got great copywriting, graphics, tech team with Excel support. Basically, almost anything on Amazon we can help with.
And I might have missed it, but I feel like you sold yourself a bit short there, Mike. You worked at Amazon, didn't you, for 5 years, and you were a big part of their Small and Light program.
So I might have just skipped over that part a bit quickly. I was at Amazon for almost 5 years. For the first 3, I was in the Small and Light team, basically since it started as a very small operation, one FC fulfillment center in Peterborough, and it was very sort of scrappy manual enrollment of SKUs into Small and Light, and then was seeing all the way through to expand to 4 fulfillment centers in the UK, and also it's now operates Europe wide. So that was cool. And then went on to become a strategic account manager, a SAM. That was working with the consumer electronic sellers, the Apple Premium resellers, Richer Sounds, and Dixon's, who were one of the biggest new marketplace sellers at the time. And they launched their Fire TV during that time. So that was a JVC TV model with Fire TV tech integrated into it. So that was cool. That was a challenge.
So safe to say you know Amazon quite well then, is that?
Yeah, reasonably familiar.
So today we're here talking about Prime Day. For people that are newer sellers, what is it?
So Prime Day is Amazon's annual sale day, and it's an exclusive sale day to Amazon. There are other big sale days like you might have heard of, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and they are sort of retail wide. But Amazon's the only retailer that operates Prime Day, and it happens every year in summer. It started in 2015. It started as a day, but it's now a 2-day, essentially massive deal event for sellers to be able to participate and vendors and customers to benefit from some fantastic discounts across site.
And does it, like, what sort of, I suppose, change in sales would people expect? Because I guess what I would hear if I put a sort of business hat on would be like, oh, it's just Amazon asking me for discounts, so actually I don't really want to take part because I'm going to be losing money. Is that right? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, of course. I mean, anything you've got to, like I used to, drink the Kool-Aid inside. It's just when I was there, list everything on a deal and sell loads, and don't make any money. It's fine, but the customer's getting a great offering, and that's all that really matters. And being outside now, working with sellers, got massive empathy for the fact that you need to be profitable and run a viable business. So you can't just chuck everything on. I'd say in terms of, to your first point, the uplift, I've seen anywhere, it's slightly how long's a piece of string. I've seen it's not a magic bullet for starters. If your product detail page is totally unoptimized and it's fundamentally not a good product, that's the starting point of success on Amazon, is having a decent product. It's not going to sell, but by the same token, I've seen some really impressive things done. People jump from 40, 50 in bestseller rank to the top after one Prime Day event. And so it actually can have a material impact on success. And in terms of uplift figures, as I say, it's slightly difficult to say. There's so many variables at play, but I looked at a stat to be able to sort of quote, and compared to an average day, I've seen in July or whenever when it's run, an uplift of sort of 300-400% in terms of Amazon's overall sales. So looking at a 3 to 4x uplift over those days as an average. But
Is
as I
that
say, I've seen
their gross sales? You might expect that, and that would be just like through the spike in volume.
exactly, through just in terms of a spike in volume. So but I've seen far more than that, in fact, like weeks of sales and people going out of stock. So it's by no means just that people can see.
Cool. A few more people have joined, so just as a quick reminder, it's interactive, so there's a chat. If you want to ask any questions or throw them out there, we'll try and cover them as we go. Myself and Mike went through a kind of brief structure, which so you guys are all aware. We're initially just going to talk about what Prime Day is and kind of how it works, and then we're going to talk about, I suppose, like how you can start to really like prepare for it and benefit from it. Mike, a few of our clients that are here I know are slightly different. So we've got some that are private label sellers where they own their own sort of brand, and then some that are resellers. Will the things we'll be talking about be relevant for both groups, one group?
So it should be relevant for everybody. So to be able to take part in Prime Day, as the name would suggest, generally speaking, you need Prime eligible products. So if you're a reseller, if you're a brand owner, whatever way that you sell, as long as your selection is Prime eligible, you can run a deal and get involved and sell. I would actually extend that to say it doesn't only need to be Prime eligible selection, because during that time, to physically run a deal, your products need to be Prime, and that's the case at any time, not just during Prime Day. However, there are things like vouchers that you can run, slightly lower touch discounting tools, probably slightly less impactful than running deals. But regardless, if you merchant fulfill your products and they're therefore not Prime eligible, you could still run a voucher perhaps, and I'd recommend doing so, because you can improve you're doing something while traffic's at its highest during the Prime Day event day, that can be perhaps, you've got your little voucher flag that appears on the search results page, also on the product detail page. And so again, you're just doing something that can stand out on a very busy, very crowded search results page, to stand out. So you can even participate in short as a merchant fulfilled seller too. So basically everyone can participate in some way.
I think that's quite a good point, and let's maybe dig into that one in a bit for anyone who's not merch fulfilled or not FBA. Kind of taking a step back and looking sort of bigger picture. So Prime Day is this massive event that people can participate in. It's essentially like a discount event, right? That Amazon will. Am I right in thinking Amazon promote your products on a specific page, or are they promoting them on all of the pages? Because you mentioned now about having like there's certain tags or banners that they give you, or flags, like the number badges. Sorry. What is it overall like? How does it look for buyers? I suppose. How do they find these?
Yeah, so I mean, they'll reconfigure the landing page, and it'll have a couple of hero placements spots, but they'll only really be accessible to like the very, very biggest vendors. Generally speaking, your products will appear on the deals pages, and they're linked to from the banner on the top of the landing page. Business as usual, the landing page, or the deals page, it gets the second most traffic behind the home page. So it's a very visited page, and a lot of people are slightly surprised by that. So they do get a lot of visibility. So all deals will appear there. The only slight issue is that during Prime Day, I imagine there's going to be anything in the region of 300 deals pages. So visibility in that itself is going to be fairly limited unless you're page one. To be on page one, you're going to be needing to run a top deal, what used to be known as deal of the day. And that's again reserved generally for very, very high performing ASINs. You'll see it's always the same stuff every year. Simba mattresses, TVs, your electronics, your headphones. I bet my flat that there's a Karcher jet washer on there this year, because there's always the same stuff kind of that's performed previously. And I understand why the deals managers will have very punchy goals to do. Look at what performed previously, ask them to run a deal again. But you don't only appear on the deals pages. Where I think general sellers will see successes in the conversion uplift. So when you take part, you're in any search result page, you will get a little flag saying Prime Day deal. So again, people see that should hopefully help your click-through rate. And then when on the detail page itself, again, you'll have that little badging, which will say Prime Day deal. You'll have a reduced price as well to be able to participate. So we'll touch upon how you can get involved, but you'll probably have to offer a minimum of a 20% discount.
So just
combining those two.
For me to just paraphrase to make sure I'm following. If so, Prime Day obviously is this big deals bonanza. You're not necessarily going to benefit by taking part from being, because most people aren't going to be deal of the day. But what you're saying is by taking part, your listing will get a badge which will display on the regular page. So like when I used to sell, I sold kitchenware, we sold vegetable peelers. If we were listing as a deal, if someone searched vegetable peeler, when you're scrolling down the page, ours would kind of stand out, is what you're saying. So people are more likely to click on it. Is that
exactly? Yeah, you'll get that little badge on the search results page. So any results page that will appear, and it'll also appear on the product detail page itself, and that should help conversion. And that's really where people will see the benefit.
Wazam's just said he had a top deal run for him twice, but after the deal was over, he had a huge impact on his sales. That's pretty cool. And also, Wazam, I know you've had a question which we'll get around to in a bit. So thank you for that. If anyone else wants to raise questions, there's a Q&A panel.
Chuck them in.
But what happens? So with that sort of vegetable peeler example, can multiple, say we had 5 competitors that sold them, could everybody technically have that badge?
In theory, if it was a competitive offer and everyone was running a deal, it would appear on an ASIN level. So it would just appear on the detail page itself.
Oh, it's on the detail page, not the search page.
It would appear on both.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So really, if everybody does it, there's no benefit. But if you do it and your competitors don't, it's likely that yours is going to stand out a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you're very likely to be winning the buy box as well. When you've reduced the price to be able to run the deal. So
that's cool.
Exactly.
And I suppose the big question, and how do people take part? Is it easy? Does it cost money? What does that sort of process look like? Because it seems like a bit of a no-brainer just for the fact that you can get that extra badge, basically.
Yeah, it is straightforward. Now, unfortunately, the regular deal submission window closed last Friday on the 12th, but there are still a lot of things that you can do to take part. And actually, the deal type that I'd recommend, you're still very much able to submit. The deal type we recommend generally is the Prime exclusive discounts. And the reason being is, going back to what we've just said, the main benefit is going to be the badging that for your general seller. And you get that badging by running a Prime exclusive discount for free. Prime exclusive discounts cost nothing to run, whereas there's a 2x deal fee for any regular ASINs that get run over Prime Day. I saw in the US £1,000 per ASIN fee to being run. There was a bit of a schedule and one of them, so incredibly expensive. So you're already starting at a loss just by submitting before the day even starts by running some deals. But as I say, Prime exclusive discounts are free to run, minimum 20%. Your products need to be Prime eligible to be able to run them, but otherwise no minimum sell-through criteria. And yeah, it's pretty flexible, and most of your catalog will be eligible.
Wow, that's cool. And is that, could each person, Seller Central seems to be updated compared to when so much since when I originally used to use it, or at least as a seller. How, if anybody was like following now, would you know off the top of your head the sort of pages they would need to be going to look to, if they were dabbling around, to be looking at this now? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no worries. I should be able to do this one. Drop down menu, advertising tab, and then Prime exclusive discounts. And under the advertising tab is where you'd see all of the sort of deal submission menu. Shibu has just asked a very good question. If now's a good time to answer. If you're giving a discount as a seller of 15% off, say as an example, what's Amazon going to give to the customer? Amazon will give nothing as in terms of to the customer. It's the discount that you offer off will be what the customer receives. There's a sort of secondary point which you may be touching upon is does Amazon give anything to support sellers to offer discounts, which is a fair point that got raised a lot when I was there, saying, run these deals, take a percentage off your margin, and sellers will say, hang on a second, are you going to support us to do that? You're asking for some big chunks and I don't have much profit margin to play with. The answer is that your referral fee is a percentage of it's always a percentage of the selling price. So usually it's around 15%, 8% on some categories. Consumer electronics is lower. Beer, wines, and spirits, which you can't actually run a deal on, to be fair, is 10%. So because your selling price is lower, the associated referral fee also reduces. So there is almost a little bit of leeway in terms of Amazon's fee in that sense, but they're not giving you anything really.
It's so cheeky, isn't it? It's so you think they'd say we'll reduce the percentage rather than don't worry about it. Your selling price is lower, so our costs are lower.
Yeah, exactly.
and Sheba had a follow-up question, which you said about we've missed the deadline, which was the 12th.
Yeah, you have missed general deal submission deadline, but I would still recommend you're still very much able to submit Prime exclusive discounts. Your other remaining options are your sort of business as usual ones. You can run vouchers still, and you'll be able to submit a voucher, 10 minutes before the deal event starts. And also your sort of final option really is just your straightforward sale strike through price. So you can set that up anytime. Again, it's probably not going to be quite as effective either of those last two, because you're not going to have the Prime Day deal event badging and sort of the more official conversion driving flags that you would get with Prime exclusive discount. But regardless, you're going to be helping your conversion while traffic on site is at its peak, and all of that will help to drive your sales.
And so we mentioned that having that badging or taking part in those deals gives you the badging, which gives you kind of better on-site conversion. Are there any other benefits in taking part that people might expect, or that then come from having that increased conversion?
Yeah, internally we used to refer to it as a halo effect, where we've kind of already covered off the short-term uplift in sales that you would see just by taking part in the deal event. Post an increase in sales, you should also hopefully get an increase in review count. More people have bought, hopefully more people then leave reviews, so that will benefit you. But you also should hopefully jump in your sort of bestseller ranking as well from that short-term hit, and that when you then return to your sort of normal selling price, you're back at full margin. Because of that boost in BSR, you're then in a better position than you were previously, but you're back at full margin. And that there's a sort of ratchet effect that after the deal event, you're then better off, and that for the long term, you're in a better position. The theory behind that is reasonably sound, but that's the sort of idea of the halo effect that people would talk about. It's not just that short term during the event.
And quite a few people I've noticed come on kind of late. So just so you're aware, when Mike talks about internally, he used to work at Amazon and spent quite a few years there. So when he
Sorry,
says
that's what I
internally,
mean. Yeah.
yeah, it's tough to keep track. I'm keeping my eye on the
I also just
attendees.
forget that I'm not just talking to you.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
you know that. So yeah, sorry.
And again, if anyone, there's the chat panel, feel free to kind of send messages, which we've been trying to cover as we go. In terms of, should we touch on Wazam's question that he raised a little while ago? So do you know how Amazon assess what products they can put forward to the top deal, formerly deal of the day? Do they look at the recent BSR or bestseller ranking for the product? On what back period? Does that make any?
Yeah, the fundamentally the criteria is I can't remember exactly what it was. I ran for 3p the end of summer sale,
and just again 3p for anyone who's
third party marketplace. In Amazon, you got your 1p vendor. That's the same one and the same, and 3p third party
and that would be
marketplace. They're all the same, and
all of our sort of clients really. You would usually be 3p.
If you're selling on marketplace, if you're selling on Amazon to customers, you're in 3p. If you're selling to Amazon, you're 1p.
Right. So that would be more like vendor central.
That's vendor central, exactly. So in the marketplace team at Amazon, owned the end of summer sale. They only let me look after a smaller deal event, not Prime Day, anything like that. But end of summer sale comes slightly after, so people are kind of usually kind of used all their deal budget and whatever during Prime Day and less interested. It's certainly less traffic, but it's still a kind of good one to help sell through anything that hasn't sold if people have overstocked during Prime Day. But it's ultimately what's your trailing. Generally, we look at like trailing 30-day revenue, and if that's significant, you become eligible for Prime Day, and also we'll look at previous performance in Prime Day itself, like the previous year or a year before, and see whether you had a good enough performance then. But ultimately, it kind of comes down to that. It's a good point. A sort of secondary is like, if it's invite only, how can I get involved? What I would suggest is that, based on that fact of that Amazon looks at what previous performance has been, if you run deals now, the deal types that you can do that are self-service, next year, that may hopefully reach the criteria they look at in terms of GMS, gross merchandise sales, which is just revenue. If it hits that next year, you may be then invited.
So essentially, the higher your revenue for a particular ASIN, the more chance Amazon are going to try and ask you to do a deal for them.
Yeah, that's much of the criteria. They will sometimes look at like exciting products. Amazon are very keen on sort of sustainability now. They've launched climate pledge friendly badging and stuff like that. So if there are some niche use cases, they will. You may get in by that niche, but generally speaking, it's they're very revenue driven, so it's likely to be that.
What about people's account managers? Can the account managers sort of step in? So if people start saying, "Oh, hey, I've got a product I'd like to I think it's really good,"
yeah, really good point. So all of the folk that we work with who are on Launchpad and any of those programs, that's one of the ways you can get invited. It's a very, very small percentage of sellers who are managed. So you can either, pay for that, or you have your programs like Launchpad, Sustainability Accelerator, and stuff like that. I would say that's actually one of the main benefits of like being on Launchpad is the access that you get to be able to run a top deal. So I would recommend, if you do get invited to take part in top deals, again, they are free to run. They're the only actual deal type that are free to run, but usually the discount criteria is quite high. It's slightly lower this year. I noticed it's only 15%. Usually it's 25, which is often quite prohibitive.
So that percent
negative. Yeah.
Is the percent the amount of deal that the discount? Sorry,
amount of discount you need to offer off usually the average selling price for the last 30 days.
Okay. So if I'm usually quite cynical. I would see this and say, okay, Amazon are asking me to do a deal. I'm going to be reducing my selling price. And like Amazon sellers typically have quite a tight margin, right? Like, 15 to 25% is usually pretty good margin. And so if you're saying, well, Amazon are asking you to give a 15 to 25% minimum discount, it sounds like people could be at risk of selling products either at a loss or, really bad, really low profit margin. And from what you've said, it sounds like the true benefit is, well, you have this temporary increase in sales, which has like a more long-term effect. Is that it, or is there something else in it? Because it seems kind of risky almost.
Yeah, of course. You don't want to be selling through all of your stock in at a loss. That's not going to be good. Even if it does have a really good impact, and then long term you're going to full margin in a better BSR position. What I say is perhaps be a little bit strategic. If you've got a parent ASIN with multiple child ASINs, perhaps you can use a bit of loss leader principle type thing. You can drive some traffic onto maybe a large parent with lots of child variations on it, but only one or two, maybe the more popular SKUs are run on a deal. That gets people onto your product detail page, and then they see not only the ASINs attached to that parent, but also they see your A+. They may then go click through to your storefront and see the rest of your catalog that isn't reduced. But it's all about getting eyes on the pages and onto your selection. So perhaps being a little bit strategic like that would be sensible for sure. I wouldn't recommend putting everything on at a loss, because that wouldn't be good.
Yeah, and it sounds like only Amazon really benefit from that.
The customer in Amazon, not the seller. But we want to make the seller benefit too.
And so you've mentioned that the initial sort of deadline for the main deals has passed, and the main deals, they're the ones you have to pay for, right? Is that right? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, lightning deals and 7-day deals you need to pay for.
And you're kind of saying, well, those don't really matter, because really you'd recommend doing I can't remember what the seller.
Yeah, the prime exclusive discount is the free type. I'd say there may be people joining who have paid to submit them, and you will benefit from the first of all, your deals will appear on the deals grid, which does have some traffic, and people do shop by category, so you're not necessarily just competing against 300 deals pages. There may be some some visibility from doing that. When you run a prime exclusive discount, you don't get visibility on the deals pages. It's not technically like a deal specifically. It's it's like a promotion or whatever it's known as, but it's not like specifically a deal. As I say, on cost benefit to paying the deal fee, but getting the same badging and all the bit where I feel you get the value. That's why we would generally steer people towards either submitting when you get invited top deal, but because that's so few and far between, prime exclusive discount is your free way to get that benefit.
So 2 questions. One, if people are planning on launching one of these deals or taking part with that sort of the deal or coupon, if they're planning on taking part, how can they start to prepare now? And two, there's an anonymous attendee has said, they missed it at the beginning. When are Prime Days? So for the sake of, and they've also asked if there's a list of dates, but so if someone's planning on taking part, bearing in mind the dates and things, if you could kind of remind people of those, how would you recommend they kind of start to prepare?
Yeah, dates haven't been formally announced for Prime Day this year. There's a few guesses on the internet. I think I saw 13th and 14th of July. The date that we have that we do know is that the FBA inbounding deadline to sort of as a semi-guarantee that your stock will be received on time is the 19th of June. Now we know that Amazon will allow 2 to 3 weeks for everything to be fully received. So you add that time to the received deadline, you're somewhere near where Prime Day is likely to be. So as I say, mid to early July is very much when we're expecting it. I'd say anywhere between the 10th and the 15th is. If I was a betting man, I'd put a bit of money on.
You sound like a better man. You've bet your flat. You've bet earlier for people that missed it. You bet your flat.
Lose money. And sorry, there was another question I completely forgotten.
I think I was asking
preparation.
Exactly. Yeah.
First of all, to submit the thing that you want to, Prime exclusive discount, make sure that's submitted before the deadline. Again, there's not a quoted deadline, but what will happen is the ability to submit will just disappear. And that happens usually a few days before Prime Day. But because it's not explicit at the moment, we're telling the sellers that we work with to submit before the end of the month, end of May. And you should definitely be in good time. So first of all, to be able to make sure you can participate, but also get your stock in sooner, the better. Amazon I used to work on an FBA program and know that outbound is prioritized over inbound. Amazon will want to very much keep the ship promise for customers. The on-time delivery rates are ridiculous, at well over 99% usually. We'll want to stick to that. And so if stuff just arrives at the dock late, the receive times will go up to a week, sometimes more, and you can just completely miss the boat.
And the second part of the anonymous person's question was, is it the same in the US, the date? So will Amazon do it, I suppose, worldwide Prime Day, or do they make it regional specific?
Usually worldwide on the same date.
Okay, cool. So if you are selling in the US, the EU, Australasia, Japan, you kind of can they still benefit from this and add, I suppose, the Prime Day deals that you discussed?
Yeah, absolutely. They're pretty consistent across marketplaces in terms of deal types that can be run. There are newer marketplaces and stuff like that. They may not. I don't think Prime Day happens everywhere, but usually it usually happens at a very good chance in most marketplaces. And yeah, I believe it happens on the same day.
Cool. And as a reminder, everyone, there's not been too many questions so far. So if anyone's got any other questions, Amazon specific, I'm sure Mike, even if they're not linked to Prime Day, Mike will try and help.
Sure.
And are there any other things you'd recommend in terms of preparing for Prime Day? I mean, what about the sort of amount of units that people are sending in? Should they, I imagine they should change the percentage of those?
Absolutely. You should hopefully get more than your business as usual sales over that 48-hour window. I would I used to say something along the lines of making sure that you got 30 days worth of inventory in. And so that's probably more. I mean, that's the saying of 15x uplift, isn't it? That seems a little bit punchy. But that would make sure that you've definitely got your stock level covered, and then you'll still have stock, because what you really don't want to happen is to get a massive benefit from Prime Day, but then go out of stock a few days after, because then straight away the clock starts ticking on dropping in rankings, and after all that effort, you've undone it all. So
Mm.
actually there's no harm being slightly more overstocked than understocked. I'd caveat, of course, Amazon now has volume-based inventory limits, so don't go crazy overstocking, but I definitely say go for more than less, particularly with those lines that you think will sell through.
And with the coupons, or with I keep calling them coupons. Is that right? Like the Prime
US, it's
Day?
coupons, vouchers in the UK,
Yeah,
but they're the same thing.
I
Yeah.
think because I mainly used to sell in the US. It's odd habit. Can you limit the number of them? Because I guess that could be a worry, right? If people say they've got 1,000 units and they put a 20% discount and then they all sell out, like, can you say only the first 100 people?
Yeah, absolutely. You can limit number of redemptions, and you can also with a coupon or a voucher just cancel it. It'll take about 15 minutes to update, but if you really want to just take that away, vouchers are a very, very flexible tool. I'd also, back to an earlier point in terms of margin constraints, Prime exclusive discounts minimum 20% discount, vouchers minimum 5% discount to be running a voucher. So 5% is not a huge discount, perhaps not get people too excited, but it's enough to get you running a voucher, and 5% is much better than the 0% that your competitor in the window next door on your search results page is offering. And that may be the difference between a customer going for your offer than a competitor's. So again, if you've got tight margin, it's the lowest discount requirement of any discounting mechanism or tool on Amazon. Consider voucher.
And the vouchers, are they permanent? Like, can people do them throughout the year? Because that seems like almost a little tip that might be worth bearing in mind in general, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Vouchers are very flexible, available all throughout the year. You can run between 5% and 80%. And yeah, I would say from what we've found, doing a strike through price does better than running a voucher. Another thing I was going to touch upon was
What was
sort of
that? Sorry to interrupt you there. Strike through price. What?
so when you run a sale, so you in your Seller Central manage inventory, you can click on edit on your SKU, the window will pop open and you'll be able to enter your price, and then below that it will say sale price, and then enter your sale price, and what will happen, as long as you got your RRP verified, Amazon will, the strike through is because the regular price will be strike through, and then you'll be selling at the lower price that you set in the sale price window. So very easy, very self-service. And what we found is that people who've run like a 10% strike through price versus offering a 10% voucher, same outcome. Sale through price has sold through more stock. So a little bit of a learning that we found.
So it's more beneficial to have the strike
More
through price.
beneficial strike through price. We've seen better results. That may be because, and I was going to possibly touch upon, we've been talking like from a seller point of view, we're all also customers as well.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of tools that I recommend that are completely free to basically track previous pricing, and what you can see is whether the discount that you're looking at is actually a really good discount, or whether the price is actually 10% lower on last Black Friday and it's probably going to be cheaper again. So one of them is called Keeper, Keepa. I'd recommend, if you're a seller, just download the plugin. It's, as I say, it's completely free, and you can see all the graphs of previous pricing, and it's cool. You can see over time, you can see previous lowest price, and all that sort of stuff. Good for product research. And then the other one is kind of amusingly named Camel. So it's camelcamelcamel.com. My dad's a big fan of it, not massively internet savvy, but I taught him how to use it. And what it does basically is you can set up alerts. So put in the URL, or I think you can just put in the ASIN in the search bar for them, click OK, and then it just says like, send me an email when price drops to, and you can put whatever you want. I like looking at GoPros or whatever. I can see on Keeper that it's come down to £250, so it's not unreasonable or whatever that it's going to come down to that again. So I say, right, when it's at £300 now, for example, put in semi-new mill when it gets to £250, and it's great when I get a notification if it's something that I'm going to buy, particularly big ticket stuff. It lets me know, and that's probably not going to sound great for him, but like my dad sets it up for his gins, big gin drinker.
Nice.
And so I get a message usually, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And by the way, I got a Camel alert. Can you buy me? Use my Prime account as well.
I love it. You've taught him how to use
Yeah,
camel, but
exactly.
he's not got his own Prime account.
No, I know. But then I'll get it ordered for him and shipped up to Leeds. So yeah, no, if he can use it, anyone can use it.
That's a nice, good life tip there.
Yeah, it's very useful.
So we've had a couple of questions come in, and then there's another topic I want to kind of talk about how Sitruna can help people. Just before I do that, we've been at e-commerce accountants doing quite a lot of webinars recently. We've probably been a bit overkill with them, but I've been quite enjoying them. We've got one next week that's quite a large pivot to this. They've all been quite different. Next week we're speaking with a liquidator to talk about all the things to consider when you're closing a business, liquidating a business, and all of that. I'm just going to put the link in there now in the chat for anyone who wants to kind of take part or ask sort of questions of like an insolvency practitioner. There's sort of things we get all the time, and it's kind of quite difficult. Accountants and liquidators and solicitors all sometimes have similar jobs. So if anyone's interested in that, there's the sign up link. Mike, have you had a chance to read a couple of the questions there? We've got Shibu has asked in the chat about if it's a new product, what % of increase in sales could he expect? And given the fact that the same product is selling well in other marketplaces under the same ASIN.
Yeah, it's a fair question, and I would say it's a good opportunity to help a new product get started running it during Prime Day. It's not like an official thing, but it's fairly well known that it is a thing. Is the honeymoon period. Don't know if you guys have kind of heard of that referred to before, but immediately post launch, you might imagine you might start from the bottom. But actually, the kind of theory is that when you launch, you're given a benefit of the doubt sort of position in rankings. You're sort of sitting somewhere halfway, where if it's a product that then, because it might be a good product, and Amazon doesn't want a good newly launched product to just flop and not get anywhere. So you launch it sort of halfway in your rankings, and that from there, if it's getting visits and it does well and conversion is there and it does some volume, it then goes up from that point, from that sort of midpoint benefit of the doubt position. And if it doesn't do well, it's got a high bounce rate, informally known as when you've got the session but the conversion isn't there, it will then go down from that point. So if you're running a Prime Day deal during your sort of honeymoon period, probably the 2 weeks post launch, roughly, as I say, it doesn't exist as an actual concept, but anecdotally it's known about, then great, that would be a fantastic time to be able to run a Prime Day deal on something that's completely new. In terms of percentage uplift, it's very difficult to say, not knowing the product, the category, the price point versus competitors or anything like that. So I'm not going to promise you any sort of uplift figure. I would say give it the best chances of success by running it on a deal. And also a really, really important point is helping it via offsite means. So any social media, mailing lists, influencer marketing, all of the things off Amazon that you can drive to the product. I mean, in the US, there's the brand referral bonus scheme where you're literally paid by Amazon up to 10% of the 15% referral fee you can get back from traffic that's driven from offsite that checks out. There's not the financial reward in the UK or any other marketplace yet, but we know that the algorithm will really reward it. So yeah, to make Prime Day work as well as possible, do what you can on site in terms of discount, running a deal, getting involved, PPC. That's a whole other minefield. Cost per clicks go through the roof. I've seen, crazy statistics that, heard for like, single clicks costing, £17 or something like that at one point for face masks.
Wow.
And this was when millions of sellers had ridiculous amounts of stock in fulfillment centers, and they weren't mandated anymore. And then there was a lot of stock to shift through. So yeah, when everybody's trying to run PPC and get their ads in front of visible when there's a lot of traffic, it's an auction-based system. It just drives everything up. So it's hard to compete in terms of PPC. So therefore, perhaps look at external methods that you can really drive to get traffic to your pages.
That's quite an interesting one about the jump in pricing. Could it be worth switching your PPC off, or would you like during that period, or would you guys?
Could do. Some people do. I'm not a PPC practitioner myself, so I would, if anybody had like more detailed PPC questions, I definitely I can forward you to somebody else. But yeah, I would not be bidding on generic terms during Prime Day, or you could suddenly find yourself spending a lot of cash very, very quickly. And just the normal principles apply, but as I say, it's kind of Amazon on steroids during a deal event day. So perhaps more long tail stuff, be more efficient. I wouldn't necessarily advocate turning it off completely, but yeah, be careful and make sure it's being run by someone who knows what they're doing.
That was a very good sidestep there. I like that.
There you go. It wasn't actually intentional, but yeah.
Looking at some of the clients of our clients that are in the attendee list, some do sell custom-made products. I know that they sell on custom-made on Amazon. Does the Prime Day kind of apply to that, and would they still have the same sort of benefit? Do you know?
God, that's a good question. Custom tends not, I don't believe, to be Prime. You hit me at left field there. I don't believe so.
Even if it's seller fulfilled Prime, does it let them do seller
even
fulfilled?
If it's seller fulfilled Prime, yeah, it should be eligible. Yeah, so if you're custom and Prime eligible, yes. I don't think it usually is though. There's so many. There's like Amazon handmade. I know that's a bit slower, and possibly likely to not be. That's one way.
I don't know. Yeah, I actually don't know.
I have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
I'm sure a quick help page search will say.
Makesim has asked a relatively long question I've not fully processed. Have you had a chance to look? Because he said it's a bit off.
Made auto.
So we're facing a very interesting situation with vendor. They made auto price reposition claim and made our price lower, I guess by 30%, which is a critical level for their company. They tried to Google about that, but there's not much information about such cases.
You asked me vendor, and I'm seller background, so it's not. I know people have been having difficulty, and
makes him. I know.
I might have to get back to you on the specifics of that, because I also don't want to guess and let you know. But yeah, you get to things like my favorite Amazon acronym, which is things getting crapped out by the system, which is short for can't realize a profit. And that's when Amazon can't make money on it. They stop buying it from vendors and stop selling. And it looks like you might not be too far off that sort of thing happening. So I'm sure we can link up, and I can get back to you with a proper answer to that one. It's quite a niche use case.
And that's a good segue, I think, to say, Mike, you're clearly very knowledgeable about Amazon. You're managing director of Sitruna. How can Sitruna help sellers with Prime Day, help sellers in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone who wasn't here at the start, we are a full service Amazon agency. We've got a brilliant team of 23 people, I believe now. And in terms of specifically with Prime Day, we I mean, a lot of the benefit, as I say, will come from getting traffic onto your product detail page, and it will be in the conversion uplift. Now, all of the things on a product detail page we can help with. First of all, to get eyes on the page when people are searching, you need to make sure that your copy content is optimized. So we got a great copywriting team to be able to, as I say, keyword optimize and make sure that it's conversion driven as well. You've got the education in there. We've got a graphics team that can do A+, storefronts, brand story, infographics. Again, all of those things will help drive conversion and storefront as well. One of the things I haven't mentioned as well actually is that very on it sellers do is make a specific tab of a storefront for Prime Day. So you could make a special one that just has Prime Day banner at the top even, and then you connect only to your ASINs that you're running Prime Day deals on, and that could be a great link to share externally to customers looking for sort of Prime Day deals particularly, rather than link to a single ASIN page when you want to perhaps showcase your range. But yeah, that's a deal page that you could hide after the event and reuse for Black Friday when it's sort of there and nearly ready made.
Question on that. You said share externally with your customers. How and where would someone be doing that? Because obviously Amazon are so protective of customer data. Where would someone be selling that or sharing, that sort of link?
Yeah, sorry. So more like potential customers than customers. So on your social media, any mailing lists, that kind of thing, where you can share those links to customers. But yeah, it's hard. Amazon are doing a little bit more in terms of being able to speak to your customers with programs that have been launched this year, but it's still they're technically regarded as Amazon's customers, and that's why I feel that you're sometimes not able to interact with them like you would your ecom, because you don't have their email, for example. It's the Amazon kind of obfuscated email. So yeah, slightly hard to speak to existing customers on Amazon, but yeah, share on your socials, mailing lists, and that kind of thing to get the word out that you're taking part in Prime Day.
Cool. And it's quite cool to hear that you guys are up to 23, a team of 23. Because I've worked with Stephen, who's the founder, ever since it was just him on his own, and you guys
From
have
his
now
kitchen table to 23 in an office, was almost next door to you guys, but now just a couple of floors below even. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it's so cool. Wendy's asked a question. She said, "We have a new product with our own logo. How can you help with listing?" And she's also asked for an approximation of costs.
Yeah, of course. So we help anyone from launch to some very big brand names who are mature and help them kick on to the next level with international expansion. But in terms of with the listing page, I think we've got a copywriting team for the titles and bullet points and product details section, and then the graphics team who can help with infographics for your main images, and then you've got your A+ module and your brand story module. So they're basically all the parts of the listing pages that we can help with.
You also help with the PPC, right? As well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got our biggest team, in fact, are the PPC team. So once you've got your fantastically optimized detail pages, you need to get traffic and eyes onto those pages, and that's where PPC comes into it. So we yeah, really good PPC team, and we work with Perpetua software as well to kind of make it even better.
And then obviously the most important question: how much does that sort of stuff cost?
Yeah, so
To put
we've
you on
got
the spot.
super flexible pricing. They are all listed on the website, which is quite unusual, in fact, in the field. We like to be super transparent in that sense. But packages,
Would you like
we've
me
got
to
3
share your
packages.
website on the chat, by the way?
Yeah, please do. It's been recently updated as well, so let us know your thoughts. I love the new super duper like typey thing on it. But in terms of charge, our packages start from 990 all the way up to scale packages, which are a little bit, we do custom, but about 3.5K they start at. So anywhere between. But yeah, I'll hook you up with Steve, and he can run through all of those bits and pieces and see how we can help.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Wendy. If anyone else has any other questions, because I think in general the topics we've covered most of them, haven't we? So we've either got half an hour of sitting here quietly.
Yeah, that's a good question, Max, and maybe we can work something out.
Yeah, if anybody's interested in working with Sitruna, if you can obviously go through their website, or if you're interested in trying to find a discount code, if you send me an email and I can give you an introduction through to Mike and the team.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your sort of help, Joe, and likewise, I know we've got some of our guys on the call. If you need help of any of the realm of e-commerce accountancy, Joe and his team have. I think we're one of your earliest clients. It's been a few
Yes,
years
so
that we've worked together.
Stephen he actually got me to dig out the data. So I think of the existing clients, you guys are currently 6th. It's going back almost 7 years though, so it's very long-standing clients. I do have another question. So we've spoken about Prime Day. Are there any other events or things that people should maybe be thinking about in their calendar? Obviously Christmas and Black Friday and those sort of ones, but are there any other more niche ones or?
There are sort of, yeah, absolutely. There are, as I say, there are little sort of smaller ones in between. You'll have Prime Day, then you have end of summer sale. There was actually a second Prime Day last year in October. It was called the Prime Early Access Sale. You know, really milking it for all it's worth, Amazon. So that came about last year. No word or sign of that happening again this year. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised because I think it did do quite well. But then you've got November, you've got your Black Friday, immediately always followed by on the Monday by Cyber Monday. That's your next big one, of course. That is retail wide. So Amazon the reason why we don't know when Prime Day is because Amazon don't want competitors to run a sale and dilute the impact. So while it's slightly unhelpful in terms of being able to organize yourselves as a seller, there is a reason why it's so sort of protected and secretive, and that's largely it. So yeah, I'd say there are sort of peripheral ones, but the traffic is much lower. They're marketed a lot less, and so they'll probably be less impactful for you as businesses, as sellers. So I'd say the next big one really is your Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then you've kind of got non-stop sales all the way through till about Christmas Day. Interestingly, you know how January sales used to be a thing. They're just internally at Amazon anyway, weren't really looked at all. The sort of focus seems to have been brought forward significantly to Prime Day and that Black Friday, Cyber Monday period.
So they're kind of almost getting a step ahead of all of the regular sales, make everyone spend their money with Amazon before.
It's all been brought forward. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then by the time that rolls around, well, you haven't got any money.
Siobhan asked if the session is recorded. Yeah, it's recorded. We're gonna we'll make it live and send a link out again if anyone wants to rewatch it. And
Yeah.
I'll take that as a compliment. It's clearly riveting.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean.
Has anybody else got any other questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Have you got any other final points of wisdom? Any nuggets of gold you'd like to share with people?
Oh, we go.
Saved you there. Saved by Wendy.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion on private label and wholesale on Amazon in profit? Wendy, do you mean kind of the comparison between private label versus wholesale? Like, which?
So I definitely look at in a wholesaler, like being a reseller is usually very, very challenging. And usually because you can buy from a wholesaler, unless you've got exclusive distribution agreement or something like that, other people can buy the exact same product and list on Amazon. And because of the way the buy box works, it's usually a bit of a race to the bottom. That we generally work with own label, brand owners, brands, and that's generally the route that I'd recommend for long-term sustainable, growth and business on Amazon. It's obviously a little bit more challenging. There's more legwork there, but for the long run, or else once you've exhausted all the profitability on a certain product you buy from a wholesaler, you need to look elsewhere, and that's a little bit tough. Private label, you should definitely see sort of more profit in terms of a comparison between the two. But yeah, there's a lot of variables at play there. So we can, you might need to look at the wider picture on those two.
Thanks, Wendy. And again, just shamelessly self-promoting our own webinars. I've just pasted the link again if anyone wants to register. Wazam's asked Shopify versus Amazon. What could you give any context on that? Are you saying for whom?
I would actually say both. I said this on Tuesday as well. One of the first things I heard a senior manager at Amazon say, which I found really odd, was the first rule of Amazon is to not only sell on Amazon. And as an Amazon senior person, I thought, that's, why would you say that, and why would that be the case? Several years of working on Amazon later, I understand why. You could have a suspension overnight, and if you are only selling on Amazon in one marketplace, that's your business cut off until you can write a POA and get through successfully to get your account reinstated. So it's really important to not only be reliant, but also use this point. I don't know if I've mentioned it. Our tech team have 3 of the 4 guys are ex-seller support, so they really know how to navigate Amazon seller support, which is usually a very, very difficult. Anybody who's sold on Amazon for more than a week will know what it's like to deal with seller support. Definitely good to have an omni-channel strategy. I would say Amazon's conversion is likely to be far, far higher than a Shopify site, but people look to perhaps when you're selling on Shopify, you're not paying your Amazon referral fee 15% so it's more profitable to sell on Shopify. But perhaps you can use both Amazon as a customer acquisition, and then you need to be careful. You cannot put a little insert and say, check out on my website next time with here's a 10% off. That's called diversion fraud. That's a very easy way to get yourself suspended, even though I see it a lot, particularly with sellers from a certain region. But yeah, be careful. But yeah, I'd say use both for sure.
And the other benefit I would add to that, from having Shopify, even if you're starting a brand and you've got a store that's got kind of little to no traffic on it, is that some people are kind of savvy buyers. Like Mike said, people use camel. They might see your brand on Amazon, and if it's doing really well, might kind of go, I'm going to search for it on Google and see if it's cheaper. or sometimes some people just don't like Amazon, so they will buy it directly from the seller just on ethical reasons because they think Amazon are a pretty bad company. So they'll do that, and then once they've done that, you own their, you kind of, they become a customer of yours. You've got their email address, and like Mike said earlier, you can then start, when these sort of deal days come along, you can email them and you can send your, a URL to your store, and kind of promote your Amazon listings. So it kind of sounds a bit silly to say get them off of Amazon to bring them back on, but you can kind of create like a positive feedback loop. Like a lot of sellers we work with that don't have stores and say, "Oh, I'm just going to get no traffic." I kind of say, "Well, you should have it just as a
even if you don't like Amazon, you need to sell where the shoppers are shopping.
I meant the other way around.
Yeah. But then, yeah, absolutely. Use them both. Absolutely, for your benefit ultimately.
And Wazam said Shopify will deliver. I didn't realize that. They've got must have fulfillment centers then.
Yeah, you can. That's cool. That's interesting. Amazon have a program called multi-channel fulfillment, where Amazon can fulfill your Shopify orders or any other channel. So that's quite neat. You don't even need to have your own warehousing. Yeah, it is quite expensive. I'd agree with that, though. I think it's come down a bit, and also they don't ship in. They ship in plain boxes now. They used to ship in Amazon boxes, so people get confused, like actively buying on your e-commerce site to avoid Amazon, and then this box turns up with Amazon labeling and everything like that, and that saw some confusion there. So I think they do now plain box MCF products, but yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, wholesale FBA prices, I think all fulfillment prices went up. So yeah, I don't know that many sellers who use MCF. So thanks for the note that it's gone up a lot.
You managed to sidestep.
And you're more informed on me on the plain boxing as well.
Yeah, Mike, you managed to sidestep the nuggets of wisdom question, but we're going to bring it back.
Yeah. All I would say is I would generally recommend it, almost in summary for what we've been talking about. If you haven't submitted anything yet, Prime exclusive discount is the one I would go for if I was a seller. Free to run, and you'll get all the messaging. And I would also combine that with as much offsite promotion you can do. So combining everything together will have enable you to make the most of the deal event.
Oh, amazing. Thanks, Mike. And to recap, so if anybody wants to be to work with Sitruna on any sort of, they're a holistic Amazon kind of agency, so they'll help you with your listings, with your photography, with PPC, kind of
actually
seller support.
Joe, we don't do photography, so
I thought you said you might help manage the photos.
So we can do when you've got the we've got a great partner, Neve. They can do photography. It's not impossible that it's something that we'll offer this year, but when as long as you've got the kind of raw images, our graphics team can add some amazing infographics, do all sorts of things. So to clarify exactly what we can't do is a much shorter list than what we can do. Photography and translation, again, like with photography, we work with Translate to Sell, really good at expanding. Of course, you can do free translation on Amazon. The build tool, Build International Listings, will do it. It's Google Translate-esque, so it's not going to be brilliant, and again, that's not going to be great for conversion. So they really know their onions. They can help with translation. They're very competitively priced and good. We've tried a couple, and they're the ones we're really happy with. And so, yeah, pretty much everything else, from also logistics consultancy, like I'm ex-FBA. Stephen is like heavy bulky, and we've been there. Global selling, Amazon global logistics, all of those things, the complicated stuff we can also help with, not just the fundamentals on the listing pages.
And one thing I've just kind of thought with, do you guys help resellers, or is it just brands like FBA brands or brands?
We tend to help brand owners much more. There's more you can do as a brand owner. When you're brand registered, you can then do your shop, your storefront, your A plus, all of those bits and pieces. You can run sponsor brand placements and sponsor brand videos and all that sort of stuff. But we certainly do work with some resellers, and there are still obviously things that lots that can be done, and lots of incremental things that we can do to help resellers sell more as well. So no, absolutely, we can help anyone.
Amazing. Wazam, we'll go over your question in a sec, but just for anyone else who's thinking of leaving, as I said, if you want to get in touch with Mike or his team, and you're a client of ours, send me a message and I'll introduce you. Thank you so much for joining us, and a recording will be sent out. If anybody wants to kind of hang around for a few minutes and ask some extra questions, we'll be happy to kind of cover them. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us.
Yeah, thanks,
and yeah,
guys.
look forward to speaking to you all soon. And yeah, hopefully, like I said, if anyone's got suggestions and any other sort of topics to cover, we're trying to do our best to help educate clients on ranges of topics. So, like I said, next week we're speaking with insolvency practitioners. We've got an IP or intellectual property solicitor lined up. Previously, we spoke with kind of people about exiting businesses and funding businesses. So yeah, if anyone's got any kind of things they'd like to learn, that'd be great. We've also, one idea I've floated with a few clients who sell really well on TikTok is to kind of arrange a bit of a panel to kind of talk about that. But I feel a bit like it's putting clients on the spot because they're not really selling anything, but one's at least said she'd be open to doing it. But yeah, I didn't want her to do it on her own. So, but yeah, sorry, Wazam's question on, do you think it's worth expanding into the EU first versus expanding into the US, or vice versa? What do you reckon, Mike?
Yeah, if only you'd been able to come to the UK or London seller meetup on Tuesday, where I did a talk on exactly this subject. There's benefits to launching in both, so there's no like right or wrong one to do. I would say on balance, Europe is obviously geographically closer, but a number of reasons why I think Europe just edges it for me, in terms of where the next step would be after the UK. On a fundamental level, if you're selling in the UK, you've already got a European selling account, and that there's a program called the European Fulfillment Network, EFN, where you can fulfill from Amazon fulfillment centers in the UK to the customer address in Germany, France, Italy, or Spain, without any VAT registration needed in any of those countries, because you've not got stock placement there. It's just going straight to the customer. So without much additional compliance at all. It used to be really without any, but more recently, packaging requirements have kind of been added into Germany and France. So sellers who've done it, it hasn't taken very long for them to do, like, fill out a form. But yep, EPR is exactly the packaging bit.
Wazam knows everything.
He knows it. Yeah,
He's
on
testing
it.
you.
Great, good. Yeah, you need to adhere to that compliance. Otherwise, yeah, in terms of testing the water out of country, that's basically the easiest way you could do it. Again, you're paying a cross-border fulfillment fee, and that's about twice as much as the domestic fulfillment fee. It's not Prime eligible. The ship promise is a good couple of days at least, and therefore your conversion's not going to be as good as having locally placed stock. But as I say, in terms of like kind of testing the water on next steps and going from there, Europe is a good bet. There's more by customer number. EU as a whole is lower, but and visits the UK, the US is just a beast. It's Amazon's original marketplace, but it's tough as well. You got some big whale sellers there that are very established, very hard to compete with. you've got
Very
obviously
aggressive.
big cut, very aggressive. Yeah.
Right.
So then they don't exist to quite the extent in Europe, which is why I'd say, scale up using Europe, and then you can tackle the US. But you can launch in both at the same time if you've got the time and bandwidth. So it doesn't need to be one or the other. But yeah, the US has its pros as well. You've got an English detail page and English reviews. Sorry, in the English language, I mean. So you don't need to translate, but otherwise, I'd say Europe, for a few reasons, edges it for me.
I find when I've mentioned aggressive, like it's so much more cutthroat. It just seems that, I mean, I've recently started hearing of this sort of tactic that sellers do. I'm not going to try and encourage that here because I think it's horrible. But people can get banned for using fake reviews. Apparently people have started putting fake reviews on their competitors, so that their competitors ping and get, if you get like 25 fake reviews in a day, Amazon will then block the listing or something like that. And I just, as a seller before, I used to hate like the US. They always felt like there was someone up to sort of shady tricks, like buying your products, leaving negative reviews.
Can be really, black hat tactics, as they're sometimes known. It can be the Wild West sometimes, doing that sort of thing. Competitor buying your product, saying, leaving some sort of complaint about it. Again, even though there's been absolutely nothing wrong with it, perfect product, dodgy stuff.
But a lot more
you've
money.
got to be a bit careful. But yeah, the reward can be greater as well. It's a lot of customers. Prime membership is ridiculous. It's like over 90% of the population.
Wow.
And just the dominance of Amazon in the e-com space there is just crazy. So yeah, if you can tackle it, then certainly reward to be had.
Nice. Well, I think that's a good point to end it. Thank you, everyone. So Antonio and Adam, I don't know which of you that is. Thanks for joining us. Maxim, Wazam, thanks for the questions, by the way. Rich, Sarah, Shibu, Siobhan, and Wendy, thanks for staying till the end. He's actually Antonio. It's nice to hear. Yeah, thanks everyone, and look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
And obviously, Mike, thanks so much for joining us and educating
everyone. Thanks for having me. Cheers,
and
guys.
there's the whole team.
Yeah.